Tonight, Canada's Prime Minister in Saskatoon. Justin Trudeau visits a rare earth elements processing plant on a tour looking at supply chain, metal and minerals.
Oh my God.
Also, two Saskatchewan sisters who've been in prison for nearly 30 years for a murder they say they did not commit will have a chance at being released this week. Plus, a Regina hairstylist is giving back to the community one snip at a time.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, January 16th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in Saskatchewan today visiting a rare earth elements processing plant. It's part of a larger tour of facilities across Canada that are linked to the battery supply chain. His visit, though, to the province was not without controversy. Kendall Latimer has more.
The Prime Minister's first stop on the tour was a processing plant run by Vital Metals in Saskatoon. The city's mayor joined Trudeau to talk with workers from Canada's first rare earth processing facility. Once it's up and running later this year, it will process rare earth elements mined in the Northwest Territories, which are critical to building wind turbines and electric vehicles.
We're seeing an opportunity for Canada to really step up. And that's what workers and companies like this and leaders like Charlie Clark are seeing and glad to work with the federal government on. I want to highlight the government of Saskatchewan has been a great partner in mining as well.
A great partner that he did not contact about the trip. Saskatchewan's Premier Scott Moe took to social media Monday morning. He says the snub was disappointing because this is an area that the provincial and federal governments see eye to eye on, yet they were not aware of the Prime Minister's visit. Trudeau did not explain why Premier Scott Moe was not asked to tag along.
The government of Saskatchewan is an important partner on many different issues. At the same time, we also know there's work to be done on encouraging the government of Saskatchewan to see the opportunities that companies and indeed workers are seeing in cleaner jobs, in the opportunities for cleaner energy projects. These are things that we're going to continue to work on, but I'm always happy to work with the government of Saskatchewan to deliver good jobs for workers across Saskatchewan.
It's a missed opportunity to, really discuss about with the federal government how we could join and make some decisions that are in the best interests of not only the people in this province, but all of the people across the nation.
The Premier says Trudeau missed a chance to talk about future investments in cleaner resource projects. Kendall Latimer, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The opposition NDP says it's concerned about SaskPower projecting a significant shortfall of $105 million this year. SaskPower's second quarter financial update shows a net income loss of $97 million. The Crown Corporation rarely posts a loss. The minister responsible says significant increases in costs and SaskPower's carbon tax payments are part of the issue, as was a lack of precipitation, which hurt hydroelectric generation.
Last year, we saw a significant drop in water levels, which limited what we could do with electrical generation for hydro. And then we've had real significant increases in some of our supply costs, 38% increase to natural gas, 36% increase to coal.
These kind of losses are not sustainable. This is a government that took dividends from all of the crowns, took dividends from SaskPower. This is again, it's another example of mismanagement on the part of the government, and something that people in this province at many different levels will be deeply concerned about.
Beck says SaskPower has not reported losses at this level in a generation. She says she's concerned the shortfall will lead to more rate hikes for customers. We know that a record number of Saskatchewan people died from COVID-19 last year. That's more than any other year of the pandemic. But the big question is, why? Alexander Kwan has more.
Omicron was considered to be mild compared to other strains of COVID-19, but it spread quickly and infected more Saskatchewan people. From there, it was just simple math.
So anytime you have an overall larger number of people getting infected, even if it's a relatively smaller proportion of those people that get really sick and die, you are still going to see a large number of people getting sick and dying.
Last year, the province reported that 845 people died from COVID-19. That's up from 802 the year before. The number may climb higher as data gets updated. There is no silver bullet against the virus. Stopping the spread would have required a combination of policies, but experts say lifting health measures in February did the province no favors.
I don't think it would have prevented them, but it may certainly have reduced transmission to the point that we wouldn't be seeing overall as many deaths and hospitalizations.
Scrapping all public health restrictions was a decision that was contrary to the advice of experts in this province.
Most of us, and as far as experts in this area, felt that was premature.
In 2022, the province's top doctor, Dr. Saqib Shahab, rarely made media appearances.
But then since the fall of 2022, most of my availability has been, again, encouraging vaccine uptake. So, I am available when required, but it's primarily to promote vaccine uptake.
Experts say the province's approach has left much to be desired.
Whether it was done well or not is not the question. The response from the public to date and where we're at shows that whatever was done obviously didn't work well enough. So I think a better job at communication by all of us needs to be done.
Experts say it remains vitally important that Saskatchewan residents get their COVID-19 vaccine and get the covalent booster when they're eligible. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Two Saskatchewan sisters who've been incarcerated for nearly 30 years will have a chance at getting released this week. The women are serving prison sentences for a murder they say they didn't commit. The Federal Justice Department is investigating their case, and while that happens, the women want to be released. Dane Patterson reports.
Saulteaux sisters Odelia and Narissa Cusance were arrested in February 1993 for the murder of a Kamsack farmer. The two were convicted a year later, but they say they're innocent. And the federal justice minister has ordered an investigation into their murder convictions. The women will be back in a Yorkton courtroom Tuesday and Wednesday, where their defense will argue they should be conditionally released until the federal review is complete. Senator Kim Pate says the women are not a risk to public safety.
What is publicly available with respect to Narissa and Odelia is the most negative interpretation of everything they've done, I would argue, since they were in residential school and the child welfare system and the prison system. That is not necessarily the person or the people that I know or that their families know.
The chief of Kiskous First Nation is also supporting the sisters.
If they were, wrongfully convicted, of course, we're going to try and give them as much support as they can.
A Court of King's bench judge will decide whether to release one or both of the women with conditions. This law professor says that's likely.
I think one of the things you have to remember is these applications to the minister for a new trial or a new appeal are themselves fairly rare because it takes a huge amount of effort.
Kent Roach says he's aware of 8 cases that have gone to a bail hearing this way in the past 19 years, and only one where bail wasn't granted. The sisters' defense team says they're looking forward to this chance at some freedom. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Regina.
The housing market slowdown continues in many parts of the country, according to new numbers from the Canadian Real Estate Association. Sales slipped nearly 40% in December compared to the same time a year ago. And prices are also down in many places too. In December, the average price of a Canadian home had declined more than 12% year over year. In Regina, the average house price dropped nearly 20% to $284,000. That's the biggest drop in the country. Saskatoon fared better. Its average price remained fairly flat, up 0.6% to $356,000. With more on the market, here's Nisha Patel.
Hutches and things.
Ghislaine Patenaude is looking for an upgrade.
I don't know if I'm a fan of a single sink.
She sold her Saskatoon condo last month and hopes the time is right to buy a house.
I've been doing a lot of window shopping in 10 years, and it's tough out there.
While sales in the prairies have held up better than in Ontario and BC, higher mortgage rates are turning off many potential home buyers in every market.
If you're a buyer right now and you see, well, if I bought 2 years ago, my mortgage would be $500 less than if I'm buying right now. So in Saskatoon, that's huge.
But as the frenzied bidding wars have vanished, buyers who do want to jump in have more negotiating power.
You have more time to think things through. You can do your due diligence with regards to the bank and the home inspections.
Meanwhile, sellers are getting a reality check. The national average price hit about $626,000 in December, down nearly 12% from the same time the year before.
Sellers are more reasonable. They're not inflating their prices, and they are more reflective of what the market is showing their house to be.
For those who bought at the market's top and now have to sell, it may be a painful process. Take, for example, this home in Whitby, Ontario. The buyer, who paid $1.4 million last January, just sold for $999,000.
I think we're going to get a lot more listings on the market, and prices are going to start to more appropriately reflect the fundamentals.
Experts say prices may have further to fall, as higher mortgage rates could last through the end of the year.
Are we going to see mortgage rates turn around and see the Bank of Canada quickly cut rates? I don't think we will.
With another interest rate hike forecast for next week and talk of a recession on the horizon, the chill that's taken hold of Canada's housing market could linger well into the spring. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
So grey out there today in Saskatoon. That is certainly not helping anyone feeling the effects of Blue Monday. The day is typically marked on the third Monday of January. It started with a UK travel company stunt back in 2005 and is said to be the most depressing day of the year. So when will the sunshine be back to perk us up? Ethan will be by with your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Ukrainian officials say at least 40 people were killed in a Russian missile attack on an apartment building in Dnipro on the weekend. Dozens more remain missing, and hope is fading for finding anyone else alive in the rubble. People are paying tribute to the victims at a makeshift memorial close to the site of the attack in the central Ukrainian city. The victims are being remembered with flowers, messages, candles, and stuffed toys. The Kremlin today insisted it wasn't responsible for the attack, again saying it doesn't target residential buildings. The strike is one of the deadliest in several months.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. The trade and upgrade event is on now.
And our CBC weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now.
Yes, and Sam, I have to ask you, are you the type of person that notices the difference between dry cold and damp cold?
I am, because the damp cold is when you end up with slush and your tires are gross and everything's brown. And the dry cold is when the snow squeaks and I can't handle the sound.
Yeah, it's kind of like that styrofoam nails on a chalkboard.
It's awful, awful sound.
Not great.
Prefer me a damp cold.
There you go. Okay, well, yes, it has been indeed a damp cold through the province. And the reason for that being all this cloud cover, this excess moisture we've seen, relative humidity in some parts of the province between 90 and 95%. Usually quite dry this time of year, but now, right now, that is certainly not the case. Temperatures quite nice across the province. We have a bit of an area of higher pressure to our east in Manitoba that's dropping temperatures along the eastern side of the province. But really throughout south and central, temperatures all around the same. You'll remember on Friday, we had a nearly 30-degree temperature difference between the warm spot and the cold spot in the province. Not this afternoon, really nothing to shake up our temperatures too much. We're all generally sitting in the kind of -5 to -10 range. And I think that's where we're going to be the next little while. That's because our jet stream is staying way to the south, and now it's not pulling down polar air just yet. We are looking at temperatures pretty much staying the same through the province this week. It's this next system that you see up in the top of your screen there that's moving in from Alaska that could cause a little issues in terms of some polar air heading into next week. Now, here is some good news, though. This is the chance of near normal temperatures over the next 3 months from Environment Canada, and about a 30 to 40% chance that we are going to be seeing near normal temperatures. And when you look at the chance of above normal and below normal, it's around the same, so it all kind of averages out. So nothing too out of the ordinary. And that's the same with precipitation as well through much of the province too. And speaking of precipitation, we could see a little bit of it tonight in the very far north of the province, a little bit of a system moving through, bringing some snow to places like Stony Rapids and Uranium City. Tomorrow afternoon, we are looking for some chance of flurries along the southern part of the province. And tonight, really, in south and central, we are looking for a chance of flurries there too. Mostly cloudy night, widespread fog is likely once again. And then heading into Wednesday, rinse and repeat. Cloud cover sticking around, chance of some flurries in there as well. Could be a little freezing rain tonight in portions of south and central through the evening, but not really too much expected. No warnings in effect. Close to 3 centimeters for Stony Rapids and Uranium City. Nothing too much to write home about. Winds. Also not anything really to write home about either, because these next couple of days, just like last week and the week before, really not going to be seeing all that much in terms of gusts, maybe 20 to 30 here and there. Regina's next few days marked almost exclusively by cloud cover. Temperatures getting a little warmer over these next couple of days. Some sunshine, yes, it is there for Friday and Saturday, we hope, before we see a little bit of snow possibly on Sunday. Saskatoon, very similar story here. Your temperatures could be warming up for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, some possible sunshine, some nice temperatures as well. That -12, kind of the reverse carrot on a stick, Sam, might be a little bit of a scene of what's to come in the next little while.
Give me the sunshine. That's the only carrot I need right now.
On it.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Well, these two cuties are Dorothy and Rose, and they're up for adoption at Calgary's Humane Society. Now, if those names seem familiar, it's because they were named after two of the Golden Girls. It's in honor of the Betty White Challenge coming back this week. It started last year, January 17th, which would have been Betty White's 100th birthday. She was known for her animal advocacy, and the challenge last year raised millions for animal rescues worldwide. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. As of today, Air Canada is no longer flying between Saskatoon or Regina and Calgary, and it's not a temporary change. The decision was pre-planned and announced by the airline back in the fall, and this means WestJet is the only airline currently flying between Calgary and our two biggest cities. WestJet announced today it's adding a few more flights per day to those routes next month, and Flair Airlines says it's planning to launch service between Calgary and Saskatoon starting in May.
Well, actually, my flight was originated from Vancouver, direct to Regina, and by Air Canada, and Air Canada canceled that. So they rescheduled my flight for tonight. So I scrambled and got a flight on Air Canada to Calgary, and then on WestJet from Calgary to Regina, and because there's no flights for Air Canada from Calgary to Regina. So I figured out my own way to get here. When you're left stranded by one airline, it's important to be able to, have a way home. Because last night when I landed in Vancouver from the US, I was completely lost. There was just nothing to get me home, till this morning. And I'm not going to tell you what it cost me extra. It was just unreal.
Now, speaking of travel woes, Manulife denied a claim under a man's COVID-19 emergency travel insurance because he didn't get sick enough to require emergency treatment. The man contacted Go Public, and Carolyn Dunn has his story.
The sun, the surf. For 5 days last March, the Clayson family of 4 enjoyed their slice of Caribbean paradise in Antigua.
The resort was beautiful. The beach was beautiful. It was a nice, relaxing, really nice family time.
It would all come to a grinding halt when Rob Clayson tested positive for COVID-19 2 days before boarding their flight home.
I mean, you're sick, there's nothing you can do, right? But I thought that's the purpose of buying insurance, right?
The Claysons had Manulife emergency COVID insurance included in their vacation package. They'd also purchased trip interruption insurance and cancellation insurance through Manulife. So imagine their surprise when
they responded back to me to say, we're not covering you because you didn't seek medical treatment.
Their travel agent looked into their claim and concluded you tested positive for COVID-19 but did not need emergency medical treatment. A COVID-19 positive test result is not considered a treatment. In other words, because Rob Clayson didn't need to go to hospital, his claim was rejected.
Oh, it was awful. I have to say, I don't know how else to say it. It was awful.
But in the policy itself, the definition of treatment includes but is not limited to investigative testing. This personal injury lawyer calls it an unusually clear case of a bad denial.
This is a claim that falls within the four corners of the policy. It's one that should be paid out and covered. And it's really not dependent upon how sick the person is.
Manulife declined an interview with Go Public, but after we got involved, they changed course somewhat, reimbursing the cost of Rob Clayson's flight home, as well as a portion of his extra 3 nights at the Antiguan Resort, which he spent alone, isolated in his room, sick with COVID. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
A little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of fog, same thing that we've been seeing over this last while, and that's the story in Regina again overnight, with the possibility of a little bit of freezing drizzle in there too. By tomorrow morning, cloudy and minus 13. A little bit of fog could still be lingering. Not going to see any sunshine, I don't think, tomorrow. Getting to around minus 10, about seasonal for this time of year. Winds picking up close to around 30. Same with Saskatoon, morning temperature of around minus 13, and still cloudy as we head to the noon hour, also around minus 10, which is, I think, where we will round out. Now, all this cloud cover doesn't mean that you can't go for a nice ski on the lake, including this shot that Richard took, and that's exactly what he did up at Waskesiu, longing for those beautiful blue skies, Sam.
That does look like the squeaky snow, though.
It's true. It's good skiing snow.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, the Al-Ritchie Community Association is helping people in Regina with some unique programs, including a store with free clothing, shoes, and accessories for anyone who may need a helping hand. And now, for the first time, it's also offering free haircuts on Fridays. We stopped by to learn about the impact.
My friend Carly, she works here at the Al-Ritchie Center, and she reached out to me one day and she's like, hey, we want to offer this program here at the community center, and like, you're the only hairstylist I know, so I wanted to see if you'd be willing to do it, and I just took the opportunity to do so.
We hear a lot of feedback about community members and feeling confident going in for job interviews or special events, and so we really wanted to just add one more program to our list of things to help community members feel their best.
It gives people the confidence they need to find, right, to get through the day. You're essentially, like, they call us day makers, so we make people's day, and it's not just about giving a good haircut, it's also about giving them your time and hearing them out and listening to them and talking to them. So yeah, it's awesome. He came in with like lots of hair, and he has a nice shape to his face, so I thought maybe we could give more shape to how his face looks, and we kind of just cut the sides really, really short and gave him a nice little comb over on top, which kind of suited what he already had going on, but essentially just give it a nice little chop. So.
What did you think after you looked in the mirror and saw what the hairdresser had done?
I was like amazed and surprised. It was really, really good, and like I had fun.
What did it do for you seeing his face in that moment?
It was heartwarming. It was nice. It just makes you feel good, and it makes you take pride in what you do, because if you can make someone smile like that, it means you're accomplishing something. So
it's nice to see smiles like that at the end of the day. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon, or subscribe to CBC Saskatchewan's YouTube channel. Glenn, Reed, and Ethan will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.